Picture the map. You already know it. Yellowed paper, curling at the edges, a dotted line winding past a skull-shaped rock and a crooked palm tree. And right at the end of that line, in thick black ink, an X. Somewhere under that X, a chest packed with gold doubloons is just sitting there, waiting for someone brave enough or dumb enough to dig it up. You've seen this image 1,000 times. Cartoons, movies, Halloween costumes, that one escape room you did for a birthday party. There's just one problem. It almost never happened. In the entire sprawling, blood-soaked history of piracy, there is exactly one confirmed real case of a pirate burying treasure and drawing a map to find it again. One, not dozens. Not probably more we haven't found. One. So today we're digging up the truth, and it's a much better story than the myth. Let's start with why burying treasure barely ever made sense in the first place. Because pirates were many things, but stupid with money was rarely one of them. Think about what being a pirate actually required, day to day. You needed food, you needed rum, and a genuinely alarming amount of it. You needed to pay for ship repairs, bribe the occasional port official, and replace whatever body parts got lost in the last skirmish. Because prosthetic hooks were not cheap. None of that works if your gold is sitting in a hole on a beach somewhere. Money you can't spend isn't treasure. It's just a very expensive rock collection. Real pirate crews divided their loot almost immediately after taking it, right there on the ship, according to shares laid out in advance. Captains got a bigger cut, injured crew got compensation, everyone else split what was left. Then they sailed to the nearest port that would tolerate them and spent it as fast as humanly possible. Usually on exactly the things you'd expect. This is the boring, practical reality. But every myth needs one grain of truth buried underneath it, and this one has a name. William Kidd. In 1699, Kidd was a privateer turned accused pirate sailing back toward New York, and he knew with total certainty that the moment he stepped foot on land, he was getting arrested. Piracy charges were waiting for him, and colonial justice in 1699 was not known for its patience or its mercy. So Kidd made a gamble. Before he came ashore, he stopped at a small piece of land called Gardiners Island, off the coast of New York, and he buried a portion of his loot there. Gold, silver, jewels, sealed away in the ground with, presumably, the plan to come back for it later, or use it as leverage. Spoiler, he never got the chance. Kidd was arrested almost immediately, shipped off to England for trial, and the authorities, upon hearing about the buried loot, sent someone to Gardiners Island to dig it up before Kidd could say another word about it. They found it, exactly where he said it would be. Kidd was hanged in 1701, still insisting there was more treasure out there somewhere that he'd hidden. There wasn't. Or if there was, it's still there, which is exactly the kind of detail that turns a minor historical footnote into an obsession that lasts centuries. But here's what's actually stranger than the treasure itself. William Kidd's one real, historically documented burial should have stayed a small, forgettable detail in an obscure court case. Instead, it became the seed for an entire genre of fiction, thanks to a Scottish author who had never sailed on a pirate ship in his life. In 1883, Robert Louis Stevenson published a novel called Treasure Island. It featured a one-legged cook, a parrot that wouldn't shut up, a mutiny, and, central to the entire plot, a map with an X marking buried gold. The book was a massive hit. And here's the twist nobody tells you. Stevenson basically invented the modern image of piracy almost single-handedly. The treasure map, the X, the air pirate accent that no real pirate ever actually used. The idea that a parrot was standard pirate equipment. Almost none of it came from real historical pirates. It came from one novelist's imagination, borrowed loosely from the Kidd case and a handful of other pirate legends, then stitched together into something so vivid and so much fun that it completely overwrote the boring, practical truth in the public imagination. Within a generation, pirates' buried treasure wasn't treated as fiction anymore. It was treated as history. That's the real twist of this story. The myth won. Fiction beat fact so completely that most people today would tell you burying treasure was just standard pirate behavior. It was one guy, one island, one desperate gamble that failed spectacularly. So what did pirates actually do with their money? If not bury it, mostly they blew through it fast in ways that would look extremely familiar to anyone who has ever gotten a paycheck and immediately spent it. Port towns like Nassau and Port Royal thrived specifically because pirate crews rolled in with pockets full of stolen gold and absolutely no plan to save any of it. taverns, gambling, and, let's be honest, considerably less family-friendly forms of entertainment absorbed most pirate fortunes within weeks of a successful raid. There's a reason so many famous pirates died broke, or close to it, despite having stolen genuinely enormous sums over their careers. Money that isn't buried gets spent, and pirates, whatever else you want to say about them, were extremely good at spending money quickly and enthusiastically. So think back to that map. The dotted line, the skull rock, the X. That image exists almost entirely because one novelist needed a good plot device and one desperate captain in 1699 made one bad decision that got him caught. That's it. That's the entire historical foundation for one of the most persistent images in popular culture. And there's something almost funny about that, if you sit with it. We didn't remember pirates the way they actually were. We remembered them the way a good story needed them to be. The practical, broke, rum-soaked reality got buried, ironically, under a much better narrative. So next time you see a treasure map in a movie or a kid's Halloween costume, you'll know the truth. It's not history. It's just really, really good fiction that outlived the facts. And that raises a genuinely fun question for the comments. What's another obvious historical fact you assumed was true your whole life that turned out to be almost entirely made up? Let me know. I have a feeling the list is longer than any of us think.